I could see tubes and stuff into my arms, and I just remember that I was trying to tell my family that I love them, and that things were gonna be okay, and that I was gonna be all right.
Wrestling. It's not a sport for the weak of heart or the faint in spirit. It's not for those who aren't willing to give their all or those who fear their own weakness. To truly excel, you must give it your everything. Your time, your effort, your blood, sweat, tears, and anything else it may ask for. Only then will success be obtained. Though many are unaware of his story, those who know him know that nobody exemplifies these qualities more than Dan Beaudrie of Cody High School, who has given nearly all he has to the sport of wrestling.
In wrestling, I went out there and I could do everything that happened was the result and the consequence of my actions and my own effort and of the work that I put into it beforehand, and I loved that. Well, when I came into high school, actually, really the only thing that I was looking forward to when I went from middle school to high school was high school wrestling.
During his freshman year of wrestling, Dan showed huge potential as he looked to follow in his older brother's footsteps, who was a two-time state champion. However, this would not pan out, as Dan would come up just short of his goal, finishing third at the state tournament. Not completely satisfied with the outcome, he continued attending tournaments, one of which was Rocky Mountain Nationals in Denver, Colorado.
I wrestled all the way to true second, which I ended up losing, so I took third at the tournament. Coach was happy, and I got this big old trophy. When we were going from Denver back to Cody, we had to kind of detour into Laramie to pick up Flick's youngest daughter, Anna. And I remember we met Anna and Flick's older daughter at this little tiny pizza shop where we kind of had lunch. And the last thing that I can remember is walked across the parking lot, and I got inside I sat down in the seat right behind the passenger seat, and I buckled up and I closed the door, and my memory is just black.
On May 22, 2015, Dan and a few teammates were headed back to Cody, Wyoming from Denver, Colorado. While driving through the Wind River Canyon late at night, a rock was dislodged and fell into the road. Unaware of this, their car hit the rock, which caused them to lose control. In an attempt to regain control, they overcorrected, which sent them crashing into the canyon wall. Their car rolled onto its roof before coming to a complete stop.
My head was peeled down like a banana. I suffered a lot of fractures to my skull, along my eye, across the top, and a lot of lacerations to my head. I fractured the the top of my jaw. I broke it in half, and all of my teeth were destroyed. When my dad came and saw me in the hospital, when he looked at my mouth, he could see that, well, he couldn't see most of the teeth because they were pointing straight back in my head, parallel to my tongue. And then the other ones that he could tell were spun at a 180, so that the back of it was facing forward, and shards of tooth were broken off and up into my gums, which I lived with for a couple months. And then every tooth, to some degree, was broken or shattered. I fractured a lot of vertebrae. I want to say it's close to 14. The 4 vertebrae in between my shoulder blades, in the thoracic, they suffered compression fractures because our car rolled and settled on the upside down, and so when that happened, all of us hit our heads against the ceiling. Those ones. I fractured several in my neck, and then somewhere in here. I broke at least 1 rib. I punctured a lung. The concussion caused 3 bleeds in my brain, 2 in the frontal lobe here, and 1 over here by my ear. I've lost the majority of the hearing in my right ear from that. And the doctors told me that most kids my age die from a bleed in the frontal lobe alone. I remember the first time I saw myself in the mirror in the hospital, I thought I looked like a monster.
After spending some time in the hospital, Dan was released and began the long road to recovery. But as one can imagine, the accident had taken more than just a physical toll on his life.
But I just remember feeling like I walked through all these halls and there was all these people around me, but at the same time I felt like I was the only person there. Like I was all alone, and all my friends were playing football and stuff, and like I gotta go to therapy, and I just felt really alone. It was very dark. I spent most of the lunch periods of my sophomore year sleeping under a desk in a side room of one of my teacher's classrooms because I was just sad. And I just felt cut off from everything that helped make me who I was. I couldn't go run because if I do, it's gonna ruin my spine. I can't go do any of the things that my friends are doing. I can't be one of the guys anymore. And I don't know. It's not like I ever contemplated suicide or anything, but it's just like I was never happy anymore. And I tried to pray, but I ended up totally leaving that behind too, because I was just overcome with this sadness that maybe it was kind of selfish, but I just couldn't get over it.
In an attempt to combat what he was feeling, Dan found an unlikely beginning to his comeback story. He joined the only sport he could join that season, the girls' swim team.
I remember that first day that I was gonna go to girls' swim practice. I was so nervous and like didn't really know what was going on, and I got there really early, and I was just kind of like looking around like nobody's here, or I don't really know any of these people when they did show up, and I just kind of quietly, like, they were all stretching in a little group and I kind of was near them, but also a little bit away because I just felt super awkward. And I just when they started swimming, I got in the pool and tried my best to like follow them, but they were so fast. I could swim from one end of the pool to the other before I was completely exhausted and had to like try and like huddle in a corner of the lane while they all lapped me, and I would wait for them to lap me again before I was like recuperated enough to go back to the other end of the pool. I swam with those girls all through the fall, and like I was taken away from my regular group of friends, the like being like a member of the football team and stuff. But with those girls, I found a new family, a new place to be. I found people who cared about me and supported me, and that was so awesome to like be a part of it again. Even something that I was really not good at, but that was really neat. When I was going through the recovery, like for me, honestly, it was kind of easy, especially because I'm a really black and white person, and I just saw all of it objectively. Like, okay, I'm hurt, so in order to get back to doing the things that I want to do with my life, in order to go do the things that make me happy, I gotta do this stuff in order to heal. And so, okay, start doing it, hit the grind, and just go with it. Really, one of the first thoughts, and a thought that's never lost my mind during the last 2 years, is I want to come back and wrestle.
Dan spent the rest of his sophomore year as an assistant wrestling coach. He was cleared the day after wrestling season ended, and he began his journey to become better than he ever was. He began working out 2 to 3 times a day. He joined a local MMA gym, and every week would meet up with wrestlers around the state to wrestle live. Dan came into his junior season unranked, but after making it to the finals in nearly every tournament, he quickly found himself in the number 1 spot. But just when it seemed as if everything was all coming together, his triumphant season would screech to a halt.
I've been having pain in my arm, which we found out was a result of a damaged nerve in my neck. I had gotten thrown onto my head in my finals match, in one of my finals matches in Montana. And I didn't notice anything at first, but in the practice room, there'd be times where I would shoot in on a guy and my head would kind of get pushed to the side, and then all of a sudden I would have this big pain down my arm, and my fingers would tingle, and I would have to stop and kind of just rub it and go, okay. And then I could come back and wrestle again. It never happened in competition, but it happened several times in practice, and it was bothering me. So I just went and had it checked out, and doctors were like, yeah, you definitely damaged a nerve. You need to take this weekend off. We had a follow-up appointment with a specialist, a neurologist, and he told me that because of the injury and because of the possibility that if I injured it again while it was not fully healed, that I could have permanent paralysis. He told me that I was done, that my wrestling season was over. And that was numbing at first. I was sitting in that doctor's office with my parents, and I didn't know how to respond. I heard the words, and I knew what they meant, but it was like I didn't have anything inside. I didn't feel anything at all. It wasn't no anger, no sadness, nothing. It was like I was empty. And I drove over to our church because we had youth group that night, and in the parking lot before I went into our building it hit me, and I just started bawling, and I was so mad, and that I had come so close, that I had come into my wrestling season with the purpose, with it in my mind that I was dedicating everything that I was doing to God, that me coming back and winning, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, not only coming back was a miracle in itself, but I wanted to come back and win so that I could show the world the miracle, the power that God has, that he can take anything, the worst situation at all, and he can turn that person into his champion. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so when this guy tells me it's over, give up because you're too hurt again, that's when I asked why. That's when I was confused. I didn't understand because I thought I was doing everything right. I was working really hard, and I had a really good prayer life again, and everything I did, I was trying to offer it up to the Lord, saying that like, this isn't me, but this is him, because I could have never lived through that on my own, and I definitely couldn't have come back again and again and again on my own. Is this not the plan? Because it seemed like it was the plan, because it seemed like it would be a pretty good story, and I bawled. I cried for probably about 12 hours straight, from 5 in the evening that day until 5 in the morning the next day.
But the wrestling season still had a few weeks left, and Dan was not ready to completely give up on his dream.
We were keeping the dream alive. Just a little glimmer of hope, saying to ourselves every what if that we could think of that would allow me to come back. So Mom and I made a plan, made a deal, that if the week leading up to regionals, if on Tuesday, if I could, do some workout stuff, and okay, that feels good. If Wednesday, all right, do some drilling on your own, not with anybody, and if that feels good, then we'll try something a little bit more the next day. Well, that felt good. So Thursday, I practiced with a partner a little bit, and just allowed them to like put their hands on me, and on another person. Okay, that felt good. So we're ramp it up a little bit, because there's no way we're letting you into a match if we know you can't do it in the practice room. So I wrestled a couple live matches with a couple different guys who have different styles, and everything's feeling great. It wasn't until like that practice ended and I had no pain that I looked at Coach and was like, I feel good. And he says, then I guess we're go. I didn't know I was going to compete till the night before. So then I kind of took that next week of practice a little bit easy, because my coaches wanted me to be cautious. I wanted to be cautious with my parents and all my family, because I had so many people tell me, Dan, you just shouldn't do it because it's too big of a risk. I just couldn't let it go.
Dan worked through his bracket at the state tournament and quickly found himself in a position to make his dream a reality. He was in the state finals.
I had this overwhelming sense of calm. I was just peaceful. I was just ready. And then this little thought came in and was like, dude, what if you lose? And I was bouncing around and I stopped. I was like, what? I slapped myself. Like, I physically slapped myself and said, no, shut up. Like, forget that. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to take this guy down. I'm going to turn him and I'm going to pin him. And it was like, that just became reality. We could go all 3 periods and I'm up by a lot of points, and there at the end of getting like halfway through the 3rd period, I lock up a cradle. So I'm rocking back. Oh, didn't get it. Twice. 3 times. Finally, the 4th time, we were like rolling. All right, he went over to his back. Just a little bit. And I just screamed.
Dan Beaudrie, ladies and gentlemen.
I let out every emotion, all the anger, all the happiness, all the sadness, all of the pent up emotion from the last 2 years. I just screamed. Jump up into my coach's arms and yell some more. Just still just so excited. And one of my teammates had my brother on FaceTime.
Yeah! Yes!
So I was able to look right at him and say, I was yelling like, John, I did it. I did it. The next thing I do is I sprint over and jump up over the guardrails up into, so I hug my family over this railing, a couple, 6 feet in the air, because like they're the ones that were there with me through the whole thing. The wrestling community is really tight-knit, and so when that accident happened 2 years before, it impacted everybody, and everybody knew who I was because of that, if they didn't know me because of anything else. And it was cool to know that everybody there had been able to follow me to some degree or another, and they were all cheering for me. Everybody was happy, like right along with us. So that was one of the coolest things ever. When my older brother won both his junior and senior year, like those were cool, right? That was so awesome. But when I won, it was something totally different. It was not just the athletic accomplishment. It was having beaten everything else, having beaten death, having been knocked down so hard, so many times. Through his providence, was able to come back and fight through more. And so I guess that part there at the end where it was, oh no, you're done, was just another layer of that adversity, just another challenge to make the victory all the greater. Like my parents always taught me that God's never gonna give you anything in your life that you're not strong enough for, or that He's not gonna help you through. And so I just figured that there was some greater purpose, and I know I'm not gonna know it till I die and like hopefully go to the pearly gates. But so I gave up on, I never asked, I never like questioned, I was never angry about it. I just said, okay, let's go do that stuff so I can go wrestle again.